Okay, let's start off on the ground on a roller or not a roller, as the case is. So with the Sunday classes, there's been a lot of requests for another one of those throughout the week. So MV is going to do a recovery class tonight. So Thursdays are going to be less intensity on the circuit and more about kind of recovery, or you can use it as kind of a prep for a run or whatever else you're doing during the day. So we'll do some moving around. Might get a little bit sweaty, but for the most part, today is about getting big ranges of motion, getting lots of movement in, and using it as a day to really kind of advance ranges of motion rather than advancing fitness. I think there's a lot of value in that, especially on a Thursday when we just find that these are the days that people kind of are the most stressed out. You've already been kind of beat up by the week, and it's not quite Friday yet. So you're not quite to the end of the week. So we're going to take these days and make them a lot lower intensity, but I guess with a different goal, and that is to, improve range of motion, improve the way you're moving, and get value out of it that way. So just starting off on the roller here. If you don't have a roller, you can you can cross your leg over and just tilt to a cheek and kind of move that around on the ground. Switch sides. And good. What I really want to focus on today is we're going to start with a lot of spine stuff here today. So we're going to use the roller. And if you don't have a roller, that's okay. We can just kind of do this without the roller. I guess you can do it on the ground as well. So let's give a couple passes. Give a couple passes right over your shoulder blades. You can kind of tilt to one side a little bit, tilt to the other side. And what I want to do here is start to mobilize your spine just a little bit. So we're going to use the roller as a pivot. All right, so the roller is just underneath the bottom edges of my shoulder blade. So if I'm holding strong over the roller, and now either with hands above your head or wherever your hands need to be, I'm going to let my head and shoulders drop just a little bit towards the floor and then come back up. So I'm talking about like a 1 or 2 inch movement here. And what's going to happen is the joint that's on the roller is going to be flexing a little bit forward and backward. And a lot of times these joints right in here, these vertebrae right in here are sort of hunched forward. So we've got that little bit of a forward round. There is a natural curve in your upper back, but a lot of times, especially if you have like a desk job or whatever, it's really pronounced, and so your head sticks forward. So with this, we want to be really gentle. We're just sort of starting to open up those joints, kind of letting them know they can go the other way. Right, so instead of being hunched forward, we're going to open up just a little bit. Now let's move 1 inch up your back, and we'll keep doing the same kind of thing. So it's not a big movement at all. We're just trying to get that one joint to pivot over top of the roller. Anything involving the spine is always really gentle. All right, this isn't the place to force anything. Let's move the roller up towards your head 1 inch. And sometimes people will feel it better if you kind of hang over the roller a little bit first. If you don't have a roller, you could You might be able to substitute like a pillow or something that you have at your home. Sometimes too at the gym we'll use what we call a peanut. That's actually two tennis balls that are like taped together, so it really looks like a peanut, and you just let your spine go right down the middle, right between the two balls, and then we can do quite a bit from there. You can use baseballs for that, but it's really aggressive. All right, let's move up one more. So we should be nearing the top of your shoulder blades here. The higher you go, the harder it gets because it's you don't have much weight above the roller. We're just kind of trying to reverse that punch or forward lean. All right, so that's good there. We're gonna get into some movement here, so let's roll over onto all fours. All right, so sticking with the spine, the first 4 or 5 things we do here are gonna be about spine mobility. So we're gonna go all fours. We're gonna move up into a cat and cow. So you're pushing the middle of your back up towards the ceiling or up towards the sky. So get that big round. And then we're gonna try to reverse that and drop down, so belly button to the floor. So this, if you're a yoga person, this is a basic cat and cow. But what we wanna think about is getting each joint to move and letting your spine share the load. If you think about, we don't want 2 or 3 joints to take a majority of the movement. We want each spinal segment to share the arch. So we're just flipping up and down here. The other thing to consider in the morning is that your discs are full of fluid from the night's sleep. When you sleep, they fill up. So that means that everything we do in the morning is going to be extra gentle, because you've basically got tight discs that are full of fluid. And so if we go roughing them up, there's a lot of hydraulic pressure inside the disc. So we don't want to rough them up too much. We just want to start to squish things around in there. And that's what we're doing with this first group of exercises. All right. So from there, we're going to go down to your elbows. Walk your feet out behind you. We're going to pull your shoulder blades down and back. And we should be looking forward here. Again, we want to share that arch. So I have to work really hard to get my upper back to take on some of the arch. I tend to just kind of fold or kink in half at my lower lumbar spine, because that's my posture. Some people are different with that, but I would say on the whole, most people, the upper back is the region that's not going to move as well or as easily for them. So we really want to pull your shoulder blades down and back and try to pull your chin in so that we're looking forward. Again, this should all be done really gently. There's no forcing spine movement, but we do want to kind of get to that end range where we can start to improve that. So we want to think about trying to keep good posture while you have elbows on the floor. All right, from here, we're going to start to move a little bit. Remember, everything's done really gently. We're going to start to look around your shoulder over top and over top the other way. And as you get into this, we're going to start to try to spot your opposite heel. First, as you're starting, if I'm looking over my right shoulder, let's try to spot my right heel. And the left shoulder, left heel. And once you feel good there, you're going to look over, try to spot your opposite heel. So if I'm looking over my left shoulder, I'm going to try to spot my right heel. Your hips can start to move a little bit here. And again, remember, we're keeping your shoulders pushed down and into the floor. And good. Let's roll over onto your side. Again, focusing on the upper back. Knees are going to stack right up on top of each other. Fingertips on top. So we're just going to trace that thumb along the floor. If you have any shoulder issues or shoulder pain with that, it's no big deal because this one isn't about the shoulder movement. So if all you're doing is keeping your arm in and opening your chest up to the sky, that's also valuable. But if you can, we'll get a nice chest stretch out of reaching up and over. Try to trace your thumb on the floor as long as you can. And then we just close over top. So try to watch that thumb as you trace up and over. We'll pause at the back. We're going to be doing these for time more than reps. So it's not about the number of reps you do. If you find a spot that's a good stretch for you, you can hang out there. And good. Let's go to the other side. Curling up, make sure knees are about belly button height. You might notice a difference from side to side. That's okay. It just means that there are some imbalances, in your hips, in your upper back, in your chest. Again, if you find a spot that you feel good at or you like the stretch, you can hang out there. What we're looking for here is a big rotation in your upper back. As you open up, your knees are going to stay stacked right on top of each other. Don't let that top one pull back. And good. From there, just a little bit different variation of this, but we're going to start to involve the hips. Make your belly strong. And we're going to push your heels down into the floor so we lift up. So we're really strong through here. Glutes are strong, belly strong. We're holding this good, strong glute bridge position without arching your back up. And then from there, we're going to take left hand and reach up over your right shoulder. So we roll onto that shoulder and reach. And then coming back down, and we'll roll up and reach. So your hips are off the ground this whole time. You will rotate your hips a little bit, but we want your shoulders to be doing a lot of the movement here. Reaching up. Checking in, make sure that belly is strong. You don't want to arch up. You want your belly to be strong so it kind of keeps your low back in check. Let's do one more time each side. And good. All right, let's come up to one knee. So we're going to start with some hip stretches. I've just got one knee on the ground here. Tuck that tailbone under. There's a big difference between tucking your tailbone under and like reaching way forward. So we don't want to take that big forward step and push your knee forward and arch your back. You want to just stay tall, keep your tailbone tucked. From here, hands are going to go on top of your head. And whatever, so make sure your elbows are pointing straight away from each other. So it's not this. You want to be here, staying tall. Last spinal twist we'll do here, or it's really a tilt. Whatever knee is up, you're going to drop your elbow and your ear to that side. So think about kind of like a candle melting from the top down. So as you tilt, you might get a big stretch down the other side. So whatever side your knee is down on, you might get a big stretch on that side. But again, we're looking for upper back and neck movement here. Shouldn't feel a lot of this in your low back. And let's go ahead and switch sides. I'm just kneeling on a yoga block because the pad's are really thin. So that's just a padding thing. It doesn't really do anything for the exercise. So once you get your hip flexor stretch, remember tailbone tucked under, big stretch down the front of your leg. Now we're going to keep that stretch and tilt down on the side of where you have your knee up. Try to keep the rotation out of it, so we don't want your shoulders turning at all. We just want tilting. Pretend like you're trapped in between two walls, right? So you can't rotate, can't move forward and backward, but you can tilt sideways. All right, so let's get into your hips here. A little bit, we're gonna be on the ground in this 90-90 position. So your front hip's at 90 degrees, your back hip and knee are at 90 degrees. All right, so we want one shin coming across in front of you. And then your back knee is gonna be at 90 degrees also. If you can sit on two cheeks here, that's the goal. And I'll always say it, I'm nowhere close. Sometimes it's tightness. Sometimes it's the makeup of your hips. So if you have really deep hip sockets, you probably won't get here. If you have really shallow hip sockets, then you'll tend to have bigger ranges of motion. All right, from here, so you're just you should feel a stretch in the hip. So for me, it's the hip that's inwardly rotated, that's turned in. From here, let's lean forward over that leg that's in front of you. We're going to try to get both elbows to the ground if you can. Some people will be able to put their chest on right along their shin here. I'm not one of them. So we're just trying to get nice even pressure through your elbows, through the floor, making sure we're breathing the whole time. If you have back tension or tightness, this piriformis stretch or any kind of stretch of the rotators of your hip is a good way to relieve some of that, or relieve the tension in there. And good. Last part of this, we're going to walk your hands around behind you. Try to look behind you. So we're looking away from that back leg. And good. All right, so from there, we're going to switch sides. So same sequence on the other side. Yeah, for me, I think as a lifetime hockey player, I have a lot of external rotation, or maybe it's just the shape of my hips. I don't know, it's like nature and nurture, I guess. So I have a lot of external rotation. I'm able to turn my feet out, or my hips out, but turning my hips in is pretty limited for me. So that's why I kind of have to prop myself up over here on the side. There are some people who can sit straight up and down and have both cheeks on the ground. I think there's more people who cannot do that than people who can. All right, so we're just getting that stretch in your hip here. Let's go ahead and lean forward, trying to get both elbows on the ground. If you're not feeling much of a stretch here, you can take your foot and just move it forward. And so the farther forward your foot is, the more rotation your hip's going to go through. Making sure we're breathing this whole time. So as you're leaning down, you can press, as you breathe, your belly should press into your thigh. And the last stretch here, let's look away from your back legs. We're rotating away. And good. So from here, same position. I'm just going to turn a little bit. All right, so from here, now we're going to leave your feet on the ground. So think of your shins as sort of like windshield wipers. And we roll up and over to the other side. All right, so we can go fingertips on the ground behind you to help out. So we're just going to move side to side here. Taking those hips through range of motion. If you can do it without the fingertips in the back, you can do that. But we're just tilting side to side. Try to keep those feet glued to the ground. So part of mobility is not, or mobility is not all about flexibility. So mobility has a lot to do with your body's ability to control the joint in the within the joint itself. So it's controlling the position of your bones and everything in the joint. So if you're not stable in a joint, you won't be able to have good range of motion there. So we're going to work on a little bit of hip stability here. Right. So let's find one side. Let's go left shin in front of you. So left shin in front of you, right shin will be behind you. All right. And from here, you can use fingertips if you need to. You can use any kind of prop you need around you. But what we want to do is from here, you're going to lean forward, get onto that shin and come up. So here we're using hip strength and hip stability to help us come up. Let's do 5 from right here. One more. Good, and then we'll switch over to the other side. So you shouldn't have tension in your knee here. If you do, try to find a different spot for your foot. Again, fingertips can help. So if you're just kind of helping out here, that's fine. And then we'll go back to the original side. So we're going to come up again, but this time your back leg. So we're just progressing to stand up here. Your back leg is going to come in front. So after you sit up, after you raise up, you're going to bring this back leg forward. And we come to that half kneeling position. From there, you're just going to take your knee and wrap it back around behind your foot, and we end up back down in that same position. So let's do 5 there, using your fingertips to help as needed. Any props that you need, you can use too. All right, let's switch to the other side. So again, we're going to rise up first, bring that back foot around. The goal here would be to do this with lots of control. So we shouldn't have to flop down or make any like big weight shifting movements. You have to shift your weight to get forward onto your foot. Last one here. All right, good. So from there, we would, once you get to that half kneeling position, we would just stand from there. We're going to do something a little bit different today. So let's come up on 2 knees, hips forward. Try to get yourself in good alignment here, meaning we're going to take your tailbone down like it has a heavy weight hanging from it. And stay tall. So for anybody with tight hip flexors, this is going to be kind of a challenge to do. As soon as you start taking away joints like your ankles and your knees, you have fewer places to compensate for that. So now if I want to get tall, my hips are the only place to do it. So we'll get tall here. Then you're going to hinge back. So push your hips back towards your heels and come back up. Pushing your hips back towards your heels. Think of your upper body as one piece. So everything above the ball of your hip here, right by your pockets, is one piece. So as your hips go back, it sort of folds you in half. Your chest is going to face the floor a little bit. We come back up to that tall position at the top. Nice and strong. So if you feel your glutes burning here, right, it probably means that they're working extra hard to make up for tight hips. Keeping our ribs down in front, so we're not arching back like that. Keeping those ribs down, belly nice and flat. All right, from here, let's fold your toes or push your toes back. So now your shoelaces are on the ground. Same kind of thing, we're just reaching back. So if this is a big stretch for you, you won't sit on them. You won't sit on your feet, but we'll at least put a little bit of extra pressure on them. If this isn't an extra stretch for you, then you can just go ahead and sit right back on top of your heels. If big knee flexion like this is not your thing, if it's uncomfortable or tough on your knees, then don't go back quite as far. All right, one more thing in this hip mobility, and this will be a little bit of a challenge today. So if big knee flexion where the back of your thighs are on your calves, if that's not for you, then this, you can just stay at kind of half kneeling for this and just alternate half kneeling side. But what we're going to do here is, for the most part, your feet are going to stay in about the same place, but we're just going to sit on one heel and turn the other knee up. So I'm here just kind of sitting on one heel, the other knee's turned up. Then I'm going to take that knee to the ground, sit on the other heel, and open the other leg up. So this knee goes to the ground. Whatever knee is on the ground, you're going to be sitting on that heel. And we just open up the other knee. So we close one door, open the other. Again, if big knee flexion isn't for you, you can just do here, or you can just be here and here. But I like the idea of getting your toes mobilized by being underneath. And we're also working on a little bit of that control, stability. Once you get good at it, or once you get going, it's a little bit hard on the rubber mat here, but you can kind of switch them both at the same time. And good. From there, we're going to stand. And we'll go through the same thing again. So we'll take a knee, sitting down onto that heel. One folds in, the other folds out, and we stand from there. So you may have to make some adjustments, bringing your foot in close to you. So whatever foot is in front, you'll step forward a little bit to be able to stand up. Let's go through that a couple times each side. Okay. And good. All right. So just for a little bit of a challenge today, we're going to go the last 2 minutes. The last 2 minutes we're going to spend in a crawl position. So you can either be crawling or just holding the position, right? So we want hips at about 90 degrees, hands right underneath your chest, knees are going to come up off the ground, right? So here we're kind of in like a tabletop position. And then, you know, you can move around in any direction. Odds are you're not going to be able to crawl straight ahead for 2 minutes. So you'll be going forward and backward. You can go side to side a little bit. We're going to spend the last 2 minutes getting the heart rate up a little bit in this crawl position. If you get tired, you can try to hold the position rather than moving. But we're going to spend the last 2 minutes here in that crawl position. All right. So knees will come up off the ground. We'll get started in 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and here we go. So knees are about 1 inch or 2 off the ground. As you move, you want your midsection to be kind of locked up in the middle. You want your core to be strong while your limbs move around it. And as always, we're moving in opposition. So when your right hand moves forward, your left leg moves forward. Remember, you can move sideways, forward, backward. One minute down. Hey, we're already halfway through this thing. So as you start to get tired here, your hips will probably creep up towards the ceiling. All right, that's okay. So you're finding places to rest, but try to keep your knees as close to the ground as you can. "30 seconds left. "10 seconds. 2, 1, and rest. All right, that's 2 minutes of crawling. Okay, so a little lighter intensity day, a little bit different. Like the milk people say, it does a body good. So today might be a good warm up for a run or a bike or hike, whatever you plan on doing today. Or it could be a good day off / recovery day. Okay. Thanks for joining me, even from vacation. Rhonda, nice to see you.
Thanks.
And we'll see you guys soon.